What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 269 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we have Mike Andes back on the show for round two. In the previous episode with Mike, we did an interview talking about P4P, Pay for Performance, his software, his book that he talked about, paying employees for performance. So on today's episode, we do a deeper dive on a wide-ranging amount of subjects, but really on employees, I would say, is the major topic that we get into here. Along with his new book, Total Business Turnaround, Why Home Service Businesses Don't Make $1 Million. And a lot of these subjects come up into this interview. And this book was largely based on his YouTube series, Total Business Turnaround, where he goes to different business owners, especially in the lawn care industry, landscaping industry, and does a turnaround, does a business deep dive into what they're doing and how he can provide some advice on how they can turn around their business and help them achieve their goals. I highly suggest you go to Mike Andes on YouTube and watch that YouTube series. There's been a lot of great episodes. The book itself, Total Business Turnaround, get it on Audible is where I got actually all of my books that I listen to there. It is a great way to digest that. It is available on his podcast, and that is an easy way to get it for free if you just wanted to listen to it there. But you can also support him by getting it on Audible, getting it on Amazon, and that would be a great way to do it. His podcast is Home Service Millionaire with Mike Andes. But without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Mike Andes. Today we're joined by Mike Andes, returning guest. It's been about a couple of years since we've had Mike on. He's been busy since, lots of things that have dropped. Mike Andes, Augusta Lawn Care, P4P, Pay for Performance software as well, and Copilot CRM since, and the business turnaround. Let me get the tagline correct here. Total Business Turnaround, Why Home Service Businesses Don't Make $1 Million. Mike, thank you so much for joining us back on the show here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
So we got to know a little bit about you, your backstory, Mike, last episode. So let's get right into things here. What does your day-to-day look like now since, all the major things that you've come up with, Copilot CRM since we last talked, this new audio or new book and everything that you got going on? What does your day-to-day look like in the business?
Yeah, there's a lot less doing of stuff. It's more a matter of you finding good people to be able to do the doing and then leading without you being there. And so I think the big change from 2 years ago has been just it's no longer me with 1,000 helpers. It's me finding other people that can lead the organization operationally from an engineering perspective, and you just have to hire that next level of talent. And so I think that most businesses, as you pass 10 million, especially on your way to 50 million, it really does become you're doing the same thing as a CEO, regardless of what industry you're in. If whether I'm doing software, I'm doing lawn care, what my day would look like is relatively the same. It's finding good people, motivating the team, having several executive meetings, dealing with, headaches around, people management, and then allocating resources. So time, energy, and money, where does these things go? And that's really ultimately, as the business really scales, that's mostly what I see most CEOs doing anyways. And so that's why, for a lot of people, it's well, should I do what I enjoy doing? Well, if you want to make it a job, maybe not, because eventually it becomes not doing the thing you love. It is actually just managing people and allocating and making decisions. So, yeah.
Got it. What was your latest, doesn't have to be necessarily most recent, but what was your latest non-labor producing sort of employee that you've hired in any of your businesses, and what was it meant to accomplish? Whether it was take a load off your plate, or what was the purpose behind it?
Yeah, so the biggest one, that most recent, is on Copilot's front, but really we kind of bring all the companies together. So we're trying to have a cohesive C-suite at the top. And one of those elements that I'm really weak in is the engineering and the technical side. And so upgrading our talent level there has been a really big initiative for myself. So we have a really big hire coming on next month that we'll be announcing. He's been working with us for several months though. And so yeah, it's like more money than I've ever paid anyone, like by multiples. And so it's scary. And I think as you level up, you realize that if you're deficient in an area, you want to trade money for that skill and experience every single day of the week. And it's definitely something that is a mind switch from going from 0 to 1 million, which is like just put your head down and work harder. Like the answer to every single problem is work harder. And then it switches to like working harder. You can't work so many hours in a day. And like there are only 24 hours in a day, and you have to start replicating yourself and finding people that are actually better than you at your areas of weakness. And so definitely like there's so many software and like technical initiatives we have, and I do not have that skill. And so having to hire for that has been important.
So when you're going to hire somebody like that, where you mentioned it is scary in terms of the dollar amount that you're going to be paying them and bring them into the system and everything. How do you know they're the right person, or is it more of a implementation of I'm going to hire them? If it doesn't work out, we're going to quickly move on from them and go to the next person.
Yeah, every single level of the organization is a little different, right? Frontline team members where you need 20, 30 people tomorrow or next week, you're going to have a certain amount of hire fast and fire faster. That's going to be the case. When you're bringing in an executive and that's going to you're going to surpass all of those different levels and now going to be leading the org, I'm going to go very much slower. I traditionally like to have them on as a consultant or as a part-time contractor to be able to get to know them a lot more before I actually would bring them to the top of the organization. I want to know, be able to trust them so that when they do step into that role, I fully can trust them. There's no like speed up or ramp up. I'd rather pay an exorbitant amount of money on consulting costs and then find out someone doesn't work with us and cut them away from the organization with absolutely no, collateral damage. And so that's really worked well for us at an executive and like higher level. But typically, when you're hiring frontline team members, it is a matter of like you're gonna hire 5 people. One person's not going to show up the first day. 2 people aren't going to last a week, and then you're hoping and praying that the other 2 people work out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just there's no right or wrong way. It's just simply a matter of different levels of the organization and the risk associated with them leaving.
Got it. When it comes to goal setting and hitting targets and so on with that sort of C suite or even higher in the organizational chart, how do you go about that? And it's very easy to do that with say a labor person that's producing labor in the field. A salesperson is nice and easy to do that, but how do you go about that with somebody that it might be a little bit more arbitrary in terms of their goals, and do you work with them on that goal setting to set that goal?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, like I'm obviously with P4P, pay for performance. I'm a huge advocate of paying people based upon what they bring to the organization. Leadership is very difficult to quantify. And so when you start putting people in the places of leadership, you're not paying for, hey, you must do X, Y, and Z. You're not producing revenue, you're not producing labor, but to the decision-making power of that individual could have a compounding effect because if they are leading 10, 20, 30 people and they are all then 20% more efficient, now we have a massive impact to the business. And so it's a little more difficult. However, at an executive level, they typically the decision making is going to lead to the bottom line. It's going to lead to number of members. It's going to lead to revenue. And so I'm much more inclined to be able to do things like profit sharing, incentives based upon member count, customer count, close ratio percent, like different percentages, because their decision making power is actually going to affect those things. So, for example, from an engineer's perspective, I want to make sure that the product that's being created, customers are happy and they're sticking around. So I'm going to tie my incentives for that executive around things like NPS score, Net Promoter Score. I'm also going to tie it around things like number of members, and then also, what is the churn rate? How many people are leaving on a consistent basis? And so those are some of the metrics. I think it's just a matter of making sure that you don't have perverse incentive. So, for example, if you just give incentive for someone based upon churn, well, yeah, they're going to be super defensive. But they're going to probably move too slowly in terms of innovation and going after sales because churn is higher on new customers in any industry. If you get a new mowing customer today, the likelihood of them churning the next 30 days is pretty high. If you keep them after 30 days, it drops dramatically. And so the same thing is true in software and any other subscription-based business. And so I don't want to just do churn. I want to have an offensive measure and a defensive measure. And so on P for P, when I'm paying people out in the field, my offensive measure is quantity. Like as fast as you can, you're going to make more money. My defensive measure is a yellow slip or a callback is going to cost you a lot because you're going back to this property and no more revenue is being generated. The same thing is true as an executive, and that is like I want to have offensive and defensive measures to counterbalance each other, so there isn't perverse incentives that then impact the rest of the organization.
Got it. Got it. Okay, I've gone through the audiobook Total Business Turnaround. I assume it was based off the YouTube series, which I love. And there's lots of stories in there from all your business turnarounds on the YouTube series. Before we get into that, there is one thing that I do want to bring up on a lighter note. There is one saying that you use, and I hear you use constantly. It's the let's go. It's not my favorite. So I've gone ahead and I've come up with a few different things
Okay,
that you
thank
can
you.
use. And I
I
want you to rate
appreciate
them.
that.
I
I
want you to rate
appreciate
them
that.
1 to 5. You can't use 3. Okay.
Let's
So
go. Therapy. Here we
yeah,
go.
you let me know if this can replace your let's go here. So
Okay, okay.
instead of let's go, let's roll. What do you think of that?
Okay, I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 4.
That's good. That's good. I like it. Off to a good start. All right. What about this? Instead of let's go, let's mow.
I'll give it a 2 because it doesn't transcend mowing.
I thought that was gonna give me a 5. Damn, that was my good one. What? Okay, last one here. Let's dough because dough refers to money. What do you think of that?
Yeah, but dough could be other things, like a
It could
DOE.
be.
We could get into some deep water there, brother.
That's true. That's true. Is that a one then? Is that my one?
Um, I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 4.
Oh, that's
Higher brand power than mowing.
awesome. 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 All right. Getting into the book here. Thanks for bearing with me for that. And that let's go has nothing to do with you. It's more so just a hurdle that I need to get over in my own mind there. All right. So getting into just like a higher level thing in terms of the business turnarounds or just all the business in general that you do reach out to or they reach out to you, what's like the most common thing that they are struggling with, a hurdle that they would need to get over to get to that next step in their business?
Yeah, a lot of times we're just focused on the wrong thing. And I say we, like I do the same thing. And if anyone's, been close to me, even as we've launched Copilot, you've seen like massive lapses in judgment and mistakes I've made. So I don't circle myself outside of we focus on the wrong things. And so when someone's small, when I say small, I say 0 to 200,000 in annual revenue. Like the focus needs to be being a great laborer and doing more work and becoming more and more efficient at that task, not reading 10 books, going to conferences, learning about accounting, like just do more work and become really good at it. And everyone's like, I'm going to work on my business. Like, no, no, you're doing 80,000 a year in revenue. Like, this is not the time to work on your business. This is the time to work in your business and be more efficient. Um, and then from 200,000 to 800,000, really the thing to focus on is usually becoming a great manager. And at that period of time, you know, the physical stress that you had from 0 to 200,000 switches to financial stress because now you have less profit margin. Because no longer are you actually producing revenue at the field, you're actually an overhead to the business. But the key skill required to transcend that second stage is management. The
Hmm.
ability to be able to take team members and make them efficient, make them profitable, and lead a team. And so the stress though moves from physical now to financial because there's less profit, there's more overhead. And then as you grow past 800,000, typically everyone's like, I got to build $1 million business. True, that's awesome. And I'm an advocate of that. However, the stress just simply switches from financial to now psychological because every single day you wake up, something bad happens. Whether it be a customer complaint, whether it be an employee walking off the job, someone saying something bad about you, financial issues, things of a credit card didn't go through, whatever. Um, and I think what's important is at every single stage, we have to be focused on the right thing. 0 to 200,000, being a great laborer. 200,000, 800,000, being a great manager. 800,000 plus, we are now the architect of the business, which means working on the business actually pays dividends. And an architect looks for stresses, it looks for redundancies and backups. And that's what a larger business should be focused on. But when you're focused on the wrong thing at the right at the period of business that you're at, for example, an architect, I'm going to go work out in the business and do the work. No, that's a labor. Like this is a different stage of business. And so, at an architect, you focus on systems and procedures and software and optimization. And so, I think as a general rule of thumb, we as entrepreneurs usually focus on the wrong thing. And for that, we pay a massive cost. And that ignorance tax has led to many people going out of business because we're simply working on the wrong thing and we're constantly looking for a bigger business or a different size business. And we're always fantasizing about, oh, when it was back in the good old days, I could just work out in the field and I didn't have all these psychological stresses. Well, now you're an architect. You need to be doing those things, like working on the systems of your business. In the same token, that some guys that pushing a lawnmower or laying down bricks and getting the business off the ground shouldn't have their head in the clouds about all the financial arbitrage they're going to do and selling the business and multiples of private equity. Like that's not where you're at. And so I think just being great at what you're doing and with the business, what the business currently needs you as the owner to be is the important part and really a failure on many of our parts as business owners.
Gotcha. What about have you ever had a business owner that actually wants to be in the field and they want to build a business, or they still want to build a business, but they want to build a business around themselves actually being in the field? Or is that just not feasible in terms of, they want to pay themselves this much amount, but that would inflate how much they would have to charge for labor as a business owner in the field? Have you ever had that kind of conflict with the business owner?
Yeah, it really comes down to like if you want to work on the field, there's a couple options. One, you can grow the business of 300,000. You can be a laborer out in the field, be very profitable. You have higher margins because you're actually producing revenue, and all of your team's super efficient because you are the P for P. Like you are the system watching them all the time. Um, you don't have to be a great manager either because you are literally with them all the time. As you grow past that, you would need to have management skills, systems in place, etc. The alternative is if you love being a laborer and you want to scale a larger business for whatever reason, I would then say you would then need to hire a great manager. And then as the business grows past 800,000, you need to hire a great architect, i.e., usually a head of operations or some sort of general manager. And so I think just, again, being cognizant of your strengths and weaknesses. Some people are great managers and they stink at being out in the field. So what should they do? They should grow past 3, 4, 500,000 as fast as possible. Even if they lose a little bit of money, the marketing isn't super on point, like just grow quickly because you're not good at labor. Like you will literally die if you're out in the field for 2 years. Alternatively, some people, like you said, are really good out in the field, and as soon as they get an employee, they just fall apart. It's like, okay, great. You're going to need to make sure you have high enough profit margins to be able to afford a general manager sooner than you would otherwise, because they're going to have to be the one that hires and fires and does HR and runs payroll and does admin, and you stink at that. And so just being cognizant of like where your gaps are in your skill set is important, and then building the business around that.
So on our last interview, we talked a lot about pay for performance and incentivizing your employees for this. A big thing that I've heard you say, especially in one of the turnarounds where the business owner had a consultant there, and you guys had a little bit of a back and forth where you said your employees are incentivized on money. They care about money. And the consultant said, well, there's other things that, people might care about, and like having a nice work, whatever. And you came back to you and you had like a mic drop moment of, no, they care about money, because take away their pay, are they coming into work tomorrow? And I like that. I also think that you've also touched on other value that you provide your employees in other podcast episodes that I've listened to, and so on and so forth, like providing a career path, whether they move on to become a franchise owner, whether it is something that you can point to of somebody in your business that you've actually created a career path for, from where they started to where they are now. There's other value. I just want your opinion on, is the only thing that we provide our employees money, is that all they care about, or is there a bigger picture to what that money kind of provides them as they kind of progress through the career path in your business?
Yeah, everyone values different things, and there's definitely things that can be offered that give value to employees other than money. However, if I offered $1,000 to any of my employees, they would all take it. If I offered all of them to become a franchisee, when we have a program called the 3F program that allows them to do that, maybe 0.5% will take me up on that. So if I'm trying to think about incentives and I'm trying to reward my team, I know that the vast majority of them will want more money. Are there other factors? Yes, but no one will turn down more money. And so it also depends on what kind of organization you want to build. If I was building a nonprofit, I would probably wouldn't be able to be very competitive on wages, but I would be able to offer other things. If I'm trying to build a business that maximizes profit and I'm trying to build a business that makes more money, probably a good idea to have people on my team that want to make more money. And so that way we're all speaking the same language. Because if you're talking about, singing Kumbaya and I'm talking about making more money and we think that we're going to get along somehow, that's going to be a problem because I'm optimizing for one thing and you're optimizing for something very different. And so I think as a rule of thumb, just like as a large brush, I know that most people want more money. I also know that a good chunk of people want better culture, they want more flexible hours, they want to do all these other things. Those are harder because they are usually segments of a population versus a very generalized, which is people want to make more money. And I know this for the fact that if I run an ad for $20 an hour, I will get one type of applicant and one quantity of applicant. If I increase the pay, holding everything else stable, and I increase it to $30 an hour, I will have more applicants and I will have better quality candidates. And so I think it just comes down to like just looking at the math. Like if you pay people more money, you'll get better candidates and you'll get better a higher volume of candidates. And that's generally like a nice, easy way of thinking about it instead of being like, I'm going to do all these other things. Like, for example, we offer healthcare benefits. Less than one third of our company takes advantage of that benefit, and it costs us a lot of money. However, only one third take it because they have maybe VA, they have state benefits, they have other incentives. They want to spend the money on vision or something else. And so then it's okay. Well, then we have to have a gym reimbursement program. So we have if you don't have healthcare, you can also have a gym reimbursement program. Um, like there, you start getting so many facets versus like I just know all of them will take more money, 100%. So sorry, going on a
That makes
diatribe.
sense. No, that's awesome. I want to ask you, you brought up culture there. What is company culture to you, and how do you work to build and sustain that in your business?
I think communication, like in any relationship, is important. And so to me, um, our number one value, we have seven, but the number one value is constant improvement. And so if we're going to be constantly improving, everyone likes that ideology. Sounds good. Um, but if you take an adolescent that's constantly improving, i.e., growing rapidly, they have growing pains, they get stretch marks, it's not comfortable, it's not fun. And so everyone likes the idea of constant improvement until they actually are forced to improve and change. And I think that communicating throughout that period is extremely important. I've learned this the hard way with the franchise, having 150 other entrepreneurs that I need to be able to get on the same page with. And making decisions and constantly improving is great in theory, but you need to communicate with them in order to move them along and be able to get everyone rowing in the right direction. The same thing is true with employees as well. It's like, look, if we're constantly changing, we're moving offices, we're adding departments, we're offering more services, we're doing all these things, we're changing the organization structure, whatever it might be, communicating with that is super important. And in my opinion, it's making clear the goalposts of the organization. Like if you want to win, here's how you win. For every organization is different, and it's not necessarily right or wrong. In some organizations, if you just sell more, you win. It does not matter about like if you treat people nice. It doesn't matter if you're humble. It doesn't matter if you're teachable. It just simply comes down to if you sell more, you win. And so in any organization, I think that the role of the CEO and the founder is to make very clear the goalpost for that company. And it's like if you want to win, these are the rules of the game. And if you don't want to win, these are the things that will make you lose. And this will get you fired. This is what will get you promoted. And just being super clear about that because there's no right or wrong. It is simply a matter of being clear with the team so that they know how to win if they want to win.
How do you support that constant improvement for your employees, especially with so many different sort of silos within your business, Copilot and Augusta Lawn Care and all these, the media team, and going off that, do you have any sort of not necessarily incentive program, but like a training system in place where even as simple as, hey, this is the audiobook or the book of the month that I want everybody to read and we'll have a meeting on it or something like that. Do you have anything like that in place? And how do you support that constant improvement as your value there?
Yeah, so like I think it comes down to if constant improvement is important and if we're always growing the organization and creating ways for them to move up, it's a matter of like either A, I can hire from outside and it's usually going to be risky 'cause culturally they might not stick. It's going to be more expensive. And or I can have a great training program that gets people that are hungry to move up inside the organization, which is difficult because they if you're growing fast, their skill level has to match that. And so that's a very difficult part if you're hiring from within. And so yes, we have 400 and some odd audiobooks inside of a program we share with everyone. At our local shop, they do like weekly meetings with the team and talk about like their credit score and buying houses and like how to get a mortgage and like all the little basics of personal finance. And ultimately it's like I can lead the horse to water, I cannot make them drink. And so my goal is make the water available, and then I'm just sitting off to the side, be like, all right, who's going to drink today? Because if they're going to drink and they're going to actually improve and they're actually going to gain skills, I'm just going to try to keep feeding them. I'm just going to keep putting more and more in front of them and just see their, like, if they have the chops to keep going. And some people don't. Most people don't. And it can be very discouraging when you have 19 out of 20 people reject the water or, kind of look at the water like, whatever, yeah, great, Audible program, woohoo. Like, who cares about this podcast or these books or whatever? And yeah, we like books of the month that they get money if they read them, but it's not about that. It's like who's going to sink their teeth into this is a good indicator is who is going to be the person that when I create the next level in the organization, they can move into it. Because if they can figure out this basic, like read this book and gain skills from it, they'll probably be the person that when they see a skill deficiency in their next position, they'll make sure they do what it takes to be able to fill that gap.
Where are you finding employees like that, that are, say, like the A employees, or where has been like your best source of getting those types of employees into your business?
Yeah, like I'm a big fan of trying to cast a wide net at the lower end of the org, and then just having a system in place to reward those type of people. And so I think it's more a matter of like having great one-on-ones, to be able to measure, quantify success, make very clear what success is, and then track on, where are they on this level, and then move them up quickly. Because you can recruit, you can hire a lot, you can hire recruiting firms to get high level talent. It's very expensive and you're paying a massive gamble. And if they don't work out, it's a huge risk to the organization. Versus I can cast a massive net at the lower level and catch one out of 100 that are just absolute killers. And I'm going to try to get them to the top of the organization within 3 to 5 years. And so that's traditionally what's worked for me. I wouldn't say that's the right way. And I wouldn't say that at 100 million plus business that's going to work because there's too much of a skill deficiency from bottom to top. But I think in 3 to 5 years, a lot of people can transcend 4 to 5 rungs on an organizational chart, unless there's technical gaps that need 10 to 20 years of experience in a certain discipline, like software and technology.
Do you make a point to publicly, like say somebody hit their goals, or, for example, somebody went ahead and read the audiobook of the month or whatever it might be in your business? Do you actually make a fact and to publicly, say great job for this? Or do you find that if you do that too much, you get people that, superficially try to replicate the same thing, get discouraged when they're not sort of, held to some sort of esteem, and kind of drop out of the organization? Or maybe it's not even somebody you want in your organization, as I ramble on here. Mike?
You're good. Yeah, I think like ultimately you're hoping that they are doing it intrinsically.
Mhm.
Like as much as you want to make the goalpost clear, I don't want them to be doing this superficially because I know that when they are placed in front of an obstacle, if it was superficial before, it won't endure. And so I'm hoping that they actually want to learn because they want to improve. And I'm hoping that they want to learn because they want to improve their skill set and their career. And whether or not that gets rewarded in my organization doesn't matter because they know if they get that skill, they'll move on to something else bigger and better if I don't recognize that skill increase. And so if someone's like that intrinsically and they're learning for the sake of learning and they're learning to improve their skills, my hope is I can reward that and I hope I can grow the company fast enough to keep up with their skill gaining and continue to challenge them. But I'm definitely not like, oh, they're doing all these things, check, check, check. And then hoping that that continues. Like, it needs to be an intrinsic, like I am doing this for me. And it's like, well, that's selfish. Well, yeah, it's selfish too. You're trying to make money based upon their labor and based upon them doing work. Like, let's all just like we want to make more money. We want to get our career to the next level. And so if you can just verbalize that that's my goal, and I want you to be able to do the same in your career, whether or not that's with my organization or someone else's, I just want you to gain skills. Well, if I can just focus on everyone getting more skills, you'll make either more money for this company and you'll move up, or two, you'll move on to a different company or different industry or something that you're passionate about and you'll make more money there. And money is just a currency we all understand. And so, you're like, well, I really care about, a charity. Great. Use your money and go support the charity. I'm not going to like try to do that from an employer's perspective. I just know if I can make more money, I'll be able to give more money to my team, and then they can do whatever they want with life. And so whatever part with life, I think organizations over the past like 10 years have gotten way too involved with versus being like, let me give you the money and then you do what you want with it. And let me focus on giving you as much as I possibly can afford. So.
What has been the greatest piece of advice from outside the industry that you've been able to change, adapt it, and put it into place in within the industry and in any part of your businesses? So whatever industry you want to talk about, their software or lawn care, whatever it is there.
Yeah, like Alex Hormozy, huge impact on my life. In part, his editor and coach is my coach. And I'm very fortunate to be in that situation. And so, huge impact on my life. It's probably like the only real mentor that I have is Dr. Kashi and Alex Hormozy. And so, I'm in kind of inside of that, and I'm very fortunate. And so it's definitely been a lot of what he takes from like high ticket sales, a lot of online stuff I'm able to attribute to home services. And that's really what I'm passionate about. Mostly because that's where I came from. I think that it's an industry that's lagging in a lot of areas and really can needs the help and a lot of very hardworking people. And so, yeah.
And I noticed that you released the audiobook for free on the podcast, much like Alex did with his audiobook. What was the thought process behind doing that?
Yeah, like there's two ways of looking at it, right? There's the perspective like when I was 16, 17, I literally would never pay for an audiobook. I created a whole bunch of free accounts so I could get one or two or three audiobooks. And like I was very like I watched every penny. So I was hoping that someone like that would still be able to watch, listen to the podcast and get it for free. Second thing is, as a general rule of thumb, you're always looking for where's the real value in a customer. And when we look at the funnel of our media, like me selling you a book, an audiobook, I'm going to make like $5 after Amazon gets paid. Who cares? But if I get 1,000 people to listen to the book, I guarantee you I'll sell two or three franchises at 20 grand a piece, and they'll pay me royalties, well, a monthly fee if they stay with me for 10 years, like $150,000. It's like, why in the world would I go after the $5? Just give it away. And so, having higher ticket items that people can get all the instruction for free, as close to free as possible. And then the implementation of it is what costs money. And so for Alex, for example, he gave it away for free, but yeah, he sells $5,000 2-day events that I've gone to, and like they're awesome. That's where they make the money. And then in that $5,000 event, they sell a $50,000 1-day event as well. And so, instead of going after the tiny fish, like go after the whales, go after the larger tickets. It's the same thing when it comes to your home services. It's like, oh, well, I'm not going to give away a free weed and feed treatment or a core aeration. It's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not going after the one-time service of $40 that you're losing on this or $20 of actual cost of goods sold. You're going after the fact that this person is a $2,000 annual recurring value to you, and you can keep them for 3 or 4 years. And so I think we just trip over pennies and miss all the dollars. Like it's just a simple function of give away as much as possible to get customers, get authority, get brand awareness, and then deliver on higher ticket items.
What's the worst piece of advice that you hear from within the industry, outside of the industry? It could be as of late or just over time that you may hear time and time again. What's the worst piece of advice that you would lean people away from?
Ooh. In general, the fastest way to grow your business is service expansion and geographic expansion. And so it is the most surefire way to grow your business is serve more people and just increase your service area and to offer more services. It is also the least profitable way to grow your business and the least scalable way to grow your business. And so I would really push most people that are like, oh, this other service I can add. I can add this and I can add this, or I'm going to go into this different market. 90% of the time, it's a bad move. It's like, again, Alex says this often. It's like, do more and do better before you do new, right? Just keep doing more of the same thing and before you start figuring out some new thing. And so we are quite often in this industry chasing the next new thing, whether it be different services, whether it be, oh man, well, this is going to change my business. I'm going to get a certain type of V plow on my truck. Like this type of truck is going to make it. This mower, this excavator. It's like, just do more of the same, do it better, and you'll probably make 10 times more money.
Got it. Now, some people might look on the outside and look into what you're doing and say, "Well, Mike is, he's got the media team, he's got Copilot, he's got pay for performance, he's doing a lot of different things. Why can't I?" Is that just because you've really doubled down and focused on the lawn care, got that to where you wanted it, and then you were able to kind of take on all these other things that you're doing?
Yeah, so everything that I've ever tried that is not inside of home services has failed. And there's a list of them inside the book of stuff that I've done that is not inside of lawn care, and inside of home services. And so every single thing that I currently do serves one avatar, and it's a lawn care business owner. And so because of that, I know the needs of that person very well. I know all their struggles. I went through them and I know their pain points. And so me going and trying to solve the problems of any other customer is a problem. And I'm willing to take the short-term hit that I know comes with distributing my attention between three or four different things to serve that customer for the 10 to 20-year term of what having vertical integration inside the industry will do. Right. So, yes, we have the software for pay for performance, we have a CRM, we have a franchise, we have the media team, we have lawn care media, we have lawn care web design, which, all these in and of themselves are businesses that could be your whole attention could be put on them. I know that all together in 10 to 15, 20 years, when robotics, in my opinion, is really where it needs to be at in terms of a technological standpoint, all of that together, I'll be able to dominate if I have them all together. I need a command center with a couple hundred people to be able to operate the robotics remotely and have 10 to 15 years of operational execution so that we can actually roll robotics out. So, yeah, we're playing like I think in general, so for example, like the franchise, it took me 3 years of building the franchise to make the revenue equivalent to my one location did. And so it was 3 years of slowdown in order for the next thing. And so for the vast majority of people, they should just do more of the thing. Like 99% of people should just do more of the thing. But I have a 20-year horizon, and most people don't. And if they were actually honest with themselves, they don't have a 20-year horizon. And in that case, you just double down and keep doing more of the same because you're looking for an exit in 3 to 5 years. You're wanting to do something else in 5 to 10 years. But like I'm in this for a very long term, and I'm willing to take the kind of the short term hit that's come for like the 15 to 20-year play that we're trying to do. And I know I need to have all these different angles.
And you touched on the client avatar there, and there's a great turnaround that you talked to a roofer, I believe, and it's in the book about they're focusing on the commercial client on their website when really their bread was in the residential, so they needed to retailer that. So that's this conversation is kind of applying to the client avatar, which leads me to my question to you. Your client avatar being a lawn care contractor, is there a time in the near future, in the future that you're planning, and maybe you don't even want to talk about this, that like lawn care is a niche within the home service contractor? Is the next step like, okay, let's go after the home service contractor to help them with their problems for your future there?
Yeah, like 95% of what I talk about is transcends lawn care. Um, and even inside of Copilot, like a good 30% of the users are outside of lawn care and landscaping. However, and even like our conference, yeah, we're doing Blue Collar Summit instead of Landscape Summit. So like we're definitely on the periphery of it. And I think from a brand perspective, it'll move more and more home service because of the offerings. But like I constantly ask myself, like, what problem and pain points do I know and have I experienced? I know lawn care and landscaping. And if there's a bunch of people that will get value out of me like sharing those experiences and they can do a little bit of transposing over to their industry, great. And I think that's like as soon as I get outside of that realm, I'm not at 99.9% of like knowledge. And I think in general, it's like if you want to ask yourself, like, how do you make as much money as possible? You focus on the things that you have a disproportionate advantage against the rest of the market. So if you want to go be a real estate, go invest in real estate, like how much better are you than the average real estate investor? We're like, oh, like I'm good. Like I've done some courses. Okay, great. You're probably like a 60th percentile. Great. Okay, maybe done 10 or 15 deals. You're probably now in like the 95th percentile. Okay, not even like a couple hundred deals. Now you're like the 99th percentile. And so like why would I go from where I currently feel like I'm probably in the 99.9% percentile in the green industry of like knowing what's going on different levels and seeing it happen over and over again. Why would I go be like, I'm gonna go start a restaurant? Or I'm going to go help like restaurant entrepreneurs, right? And so I think I probably drop a couple percentage points when I go from say lawn care to plumbing, lawn care to pool service. There's a lot of crossover, but I'm not at that expert level. And so I traditionally see when people go way too far down that scope and start giving information, it can get dangerous. And so I just try to stay in my lane as much as possible, knowing that there's more like you've seen on like the turnaround show, there's more and more like a little bit of crossover. You learn other industries, et cetera. But like I just hope that like I don't get out of my lane because then you say stupid stuff.
Gotcha. And I have two questions for you really quickly as we kind of run down on time here. One thing that I really liked was the marketing discussion on in the book, and from what I've heard from you in the past, especially in terms of um, comparing ad spend and you're not necessarily getting the same value out of that ad spend. For example, you get $10 a lead on Facebook, and then you get $50 a lead on Google, but there's intent on that Google, and it's not quite the same value. You'll have to measure what your closing ratio is on those. Is there any platform, especially for your franchises around North America, now in Australia, that you have found is the most valuable platform to you? Or is it just a matter of, you know what, we're going to test everything every spring rush and see what we need to double down on because it might change from year into year out?
It changes every year. Um, every single market's a little bit different. We've really gone in on Google and Facebook tracking this year to make sure that everyone knows what their cost per lead is. So like a real quick thing is like when someone fills out an estimate request form, when they click submit, it goes to a different URL, even if it's just like a slash thank you. So that way you can track with a lot of reliability that they actually have submitted a form and they actually are a lead. Much better tracking. So like there's a tactical thing. Um, I would say as like a rule of thumb, you want to test as much as possible. And if you have $5,000, I'd rather you spend it five different ways, $1,000 a piece, and figure out what works, and then go all in on it. What I know for certain is that a customer wants an estimate done faster. They want it done cheaper. They want it done at a higher quality. So like if we can just focus on that, we will win the game. No one ever said it like submit a nest request when we're like, I sure hope this takes 2 or 3 weeks to hear back from them. Right. Well, if they could get in 2 or 3 days, they'd be happy. And if it could be 2 or 3 hours, they'd be happier. And if they could be done in 2 or 3 minutes, they'd be happier. And if they could be done instantly, it'd be the best. And so I just know directionally being correct in these very key fundamentals. Like, can I make a service that's so efficient I can do it for a cheaper price and still have higher profits than my competition? Can I get an estimate to a customer faster than anyone else? If I can do these things, I will forever be true. The same way, like most people want more money, most customers want things done cheaper and they want things done faster, right? Jeff Bezos says this about Amazon, right? So like just be directionally correct on that front. And then the marketing aspects of driving leads to that funnel will only be increased and optimized by just streamlining that funnel by like removing steps of the sales process, getting your instant pricing, doing over the phone estimates instead of in-person estimates, having more estimator availability. These are all like little things you can do to just make sure like any marketing dollars is better spent.
Well, Mike, I appreciate your time and want to respect it. I got millions of questions for you. So if you ever want to come back on the show, you're
I do have 10 more minutes. If you wanted to keep
you
going, I'm
do?
happy. Yep,
Okay,
go for it.
awesome, awesome. In terms of marketing content, what has been valuable for you, especially visual? So let's talk like Facebook ad. What has been especially something that you can recommend to your franchisees to say, hey, this is how we can go? Or is it like a blanket thing that you send to them, Augusta Lawn Care, this is what you want to use in your ad? Or do you kind of direct them to like, hey, have your face in it, do this, and have it, go this many seconds if it's a video, and so on and so forth there? How do you direct them in terms of that visual marketing content?
Yeah, so two things. Let's go super tactical and then I'll break it down. So first off is if you're going to spend $50 a day on Facebook, for example, don't put it behind one ad. Do 10 different ads at $5 per day and test the creative 10 different times and see which one works. Then take that one out of the 10 that works the best and take 10 more versions of that one. And so in general, like we just don't create enough creative. That's the bottom line. Like as a rule of thumb, for example, like because I've mentioned him already, look at Alex Hormozzi's Facebook ads library. He's usually between 200 and 300 ads running at the same time. And every single week they change and they take the best performers and they make four or five variations of that ad and just keep optimizing it. So first off is more versions of creative, different headlines. The second thing, tactically in terms of like any one of those pieces of content, to break down how the video or the picture or even the text should look is like number one, you got to hook people in. Like, why should I watch this? The best one in home services is to call out their service area. Like, attention homeowners in Whatcom County, in Boston area, whatever it is. Call people out. It's a great hook. In home services, it's tried and true. So hook, then meet. So then it's usually something around your offer. It's like what's the whole point of this ad? And then your CTA, your call to action at the end. So your call to action be click the button. It can be give us a call, whatever the call to action is at the end. If you actually look at the meat part, if you want to break that down further in terms of a video, then you're going to just do problem, solution, case study. So this is when it's like, problem, are you tired of spending time on the weekend mowing your grass? For example, not a great one, by the way. But if there's the problem. Here's the solution. Give us a call, and within 24 seconds, we will have a quote to you, and you'll have a credit card on file and be on the schedule for next week. Case study. Here's Mr. Jones. He wanted to get his weekends back. He hired Augusta Lawn Care, and now look at he's shooting 4 strokes off his golf game. Like there's your kind of like the breakdown of how to run the ad.
Got it. In terms of an offer, what about with a project-based business? Is there like an offer that you can actually give? For example, lawn care as a lower ticket item. So if you were desperate for work, you give like the first week or whatever free in that service. But for a project-based business like hardscaping, it gets really difficult. Is there any and in any contracting, is there any offer that you've seen that not only worked but was unique and helpful?
Yeah, I would pair up with other contractors that do things that are adjacent to your services, but not the same, so not competing directly. So, for example, if you do landscaping, okay, can you uh, partner up with someone who does waterworks like ponds and fountains, right? And then trying to package your service with a freebies from other affiliates, right? So, for example, you might install the water feature and then go to a fish contractor that is koi ponds. Like, hey, they might need some fish. Then you go to the customer you just installed the pond for the waterfall and be like, hey, you get 50% off if you buy from me on all your koi fish, right? So like, what are the other services that are adjacent that you can then get affiliate partnerships with? And instead of transacting in terms of like cost per lead with this other contractor, say, hey, pass this value along to my customer. I just need an offer from you that you're going to give to them. And then you package that up. And then all of a sudden, all the package things that you're putting together actually equate more than the cost to the customer that you're charging for your product. And so all of a sudden, you've got someone with a koi fish, you got someone to come do the water treatment, you've got someone to come in and polish the stones on the thing. Like you've got all this stuff built around it, and there's more value. Another thing is you can do is warranties and guarantees. So for example, like with Copilot, we did something that's crazy, it's unheard of, and it's like we guarantee you will grow your business. If you don't grow your business by 10%, we will just give you all your money back. No one's done that. And like people are like, what in the world? How would you even guarantee that? It's like, look, you don't buy software for fancy buttons to click around on. You do it to grow your business. So if I don't think I can deliver on that, I'll get your money back. And the same thing is true if you're installing a project, you're doing a hardscaping job. Like, okay, what are they really trying to solve here? Like, they're not trying to just fill their backyard with rocks. They're trying to enjoy it, or they're trying to get pride and satisfaction of someone being there. They're trying to get some sort of status. So it's like, why not throw like a party in with your $200,000 landscape install project? Throw in the fact that you're going to do an entire party and have all their neighbors come through and look at it, because that's what they're wanting to get. So give them what they really want, not like the rocks and the soil and the gravel. For me, not the software, the buttons and the features. They just want to grow their business. And so I think doing that will unlock like what's the offer I should give, just by focusing on like what does the customer want, and then guarantee that, like take all risk out of that. So on landscape jobs, like warranty all your work, warranty the plants, do all of these things because those are all risks that the customer warrants into the buying decision.
Gotcha. And final question here, and I don't even know the answer to this one. In terms of your organic content, is very much targeted at lawn care business owners, or maybe somebody that might be interested in starting a franchise with Augusta. Is there any client facing organic content that you guys create to bring into Augusta to serve them? And besides the SEO on websites and such like that, do you guys have a YouTube channel or an Instagram and so on and so forth? And have you found that helpful in bringing in clients, or is it more so like the paid acquisition route or the SEO that brings people in?
Yeah, like for Augusta, SEO is still the biggest one. Having like so much domain authority being national and now international helps a lot. So a lot of our attention is spent on that. The problem with doing a YouTube or Instagram, Facebook channel and trying to drive traffic from organic content, the challenging part is you're geographically bound. So I know that if I make a video, maybe 0.1% of the people who view that video will be in my market. And so the only really way to target that super definitively is to run ads in your area against that piece of content. So I would say like SEO and then paid ads is still our best strategy. And then in terms of like the amount of time and money spent on creating organic content that's going to go to the masses, if you're a small business owner that has geographic constraints, your time and money is probably better spent just throwing it against ads in your market because you'll get better penetration inside of your service area. And so traditionally, like huge YouTube channels and huge, social media accounts, they're not really usually selling services in their local area. They're usually selling something that can be more broad based, and they should. Traditionally, if I had a million followers on Instagram for my lawn care business, it's unlikely I'm going to get a whole lot of lawn care jobs from that until I'm at that size. And yes, I might get to that size, but it could take me 5 or 10 years. It's probably going to be faster if I take whatever time and energy I put towards that content and put it into paid ads, get customers today, and build the business that way.
Gotcha. Mike, thank you so much for your time today here. Total Business Turnaround, highly suggest you pick it up. Get it on Audible, use your credit on it. You can always go to Mike's podcast as well and listen to it there, but I highly suggest you just go to Audible and pick it up, spend a credit on it. It would be really nice, and I guarantee it's definitely worth it. Mike, anything else that you want to leave our audience with? Where else can they find you? YouTube and all that podcast. What else? Anything else that you want to leave them with here? Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted. Let's go. Yeah, anywhere on mikeandys.com, lots of tools and resources are on there. There's a bunch of free stuff we have now in terms of like business planners and several other things. So check those out, and then you can just download them for free.
And when is the next C-Suite Unfiltered coming out?
I think it came out like an hour ago.
Did it? Oh man, I missed it then. Awesome. It's got something to listen to for the rest of the day. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you having me on. You have a good one.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Once again, go check out the Total Business Turnaround on Amazon if you want to get the physical copy of the book, Audible if you want to get the audio version, or if you just want a taste of Mike Andes, you can get it at Home Service Millionaire with Mike Andes, the podcast. It is available. Each chapter is its own podcast episode there if you want to check it out on that podcast. And thank you to Mike Andes for joining us for another round 2, and hopefully we can get him back for round 3 in the near future. And if I could leave you with something from us, if you're looking to support us in some way, a written review on Apple Podcasts, and a rating and review on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast, I would really appreciate that. That helps us with this podcast, but also sharing this with anybody that you think would find it helpful would be a great service to us. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.